baby, or leave me. Take me, baby, or leave me. A tiger in a cage can never see the sun. This diva needs her stage. Baby, let's have fun. You are the one I choose. Folks would kill to fill your shoes. You love the limelight too now, baby. So be mine and don't waste my time crying, oh honey bear, are you still my don't you dare take me for what I am, who I was meant to be. And if you give a damn, take me, baby, or leave me. No way can I be what I'm not. But hey, don't you want your girl hot? Don't fight, don't lose your head. 'Cause every night, who's in your bed? Who's in your bed? Kiss Pookie.
It won't work, I'll look before I leap. I love margins and discipline. I make lists in my sleep, baby. What's my sin? Never quit, I follow through. I hate mess, but I love you. What to do with my impromptu, baby? So be wise, 'cause this girl satisfies. You've got a prize, so don't compromise. You're one lucky baby. Take me for what I am, who I was meant to be.
Snob yet over attentive.
And if you give a damn,
A lovable droll.
take me, baby,
And
or leave me.
protective.
That's it, the straw that breaks my back. I quit unless you take it back. Women, what is it about them? Can't live with them or without them. Take me for what I am, who I was meant to be. And if you give a damn, you better take me, baby.
Take me, baby, take me,
Take me, baby. Or leave me. Guess I'm leaving. I'm gone.
Here she is, boys. Here she is, world. Here's Rose. Curtain up. Light the lights. Play it, boys. You either got it or you ain't. And boys, I got it. You like it? Yeah! Well, I got it. Some people got it and make it pay. Some people can't even give it away. This people's got it and this people's spreading it around. You either have it or you've had it. Hello, everybody. My name's Rose. What's yours? How do you like them egg rolls, Mr. Goldstone? Hold your hands and hallelujah, Mama's gonna show it to you. Ready or not, here comes Mama! Mama's talking loud, Mama's doing fine, Mama's getting hot, Mama's going strong, Mama's moving on, Mama's all alone, Mama doesn't care, Mama's letting loose, Mama's got the stuff, Mama's letting go! Mama. Mama's got the stuff, Mama's got to move, Mama's got to go! did it get me? Scrapbooks full of me in the background. Give 'em love, and what does it get you? What does it get you? One quick look as each of 'em leaves you. All your life, and what does it get you? Thanks a lot, and out with the garbage. They take bows, and you're ground zero. I had a dream. I dreamed it for you, Joe. It wasn't for me, Herbie. And if it wasn't for me, then where would you be, Miss Gypsy Rose Ray? Well, someone tell me, when is it my turn? Don't I get a dream for myself? Starting now, it's gonna be my turn. Gangway, well, get off of my runway. Starting now, I bet 1,000 this time, boys. I'm taking 1,000. Everything's coming up roses. Everything's coming up roses. Everything's coming up roses. This time for me. For me. For me. For me. For me. For me.
Puerto Rico, you lovely island, island of tropical breezes. Always the pineapples growing, always the coffee blossoms blowing. Puerto Rico, you ugly island, island of tropic diseases. Always the hurricanes blowing, always the population growing, and the money owing, and the babies crying, and the bullets flying. I like the island Manhattan. I know you do. Smoke on your pipe and put that in I like to be in America. Okay, by me in America. Everything free in America. For a small fee in America. De la verdad. I like the city of San Juan. I know a boat you can get on. Hundreds of flowers in full bloom. Hundreds of people in each room. Automobile in America. Chromium steel in America. Wires for wheel in America. Very big deal in America. I'll drive a Buick to San Juan. If there's a road you can drive on. I'll give my cousins a free ride. How you get all of them inside? Immigrant goes to America. Many hellos in America. Nobody knows in America. Puerto Rico's in America.
What have they got there to keep clean?
I like the shores of America. Comfort is yours in America. Knobs on the doors in America. Wall-to-wall floors in America.
When I will go back to San Juan.
When you will shut up and get gone.
Everyone there will give big cheer.
Everyone there will have moved here.
Ay, ay, ay!
Times have changed, and we've often rewound the clock since the Puritans got a shock when they landed on Plymouth Rock. If today any shock they should try to stem, instead of landing on Plymouth Rock, Plymouth Rock would land on them. In olden days, a glimpse of stocking was looked on as something shocking, but now God knows anything goes. Good authors too, who once knew better words, now only use four-letter words writing prose. Anything goes. The world has gone mad today, and good's bad today, and black's white today, and day's night today, when most guys today that women prize today are just silly gigolos. And though I'm not a great romancer, I know that you're bound to answer when I propose. Anything goes. When Grandmama, whose age is 80 and nightclubs is getting matey with gigolos, anything goes. When mothers pack and leave for father because they decide they'd rather be tennis pros, anything goes.
Hi everyone, good evening. Hello, hello, hello. Wow, okay, it's good to see everyone again. Welcome to JPAC's third workshop from the Learn from Broadway series, Creative Awakenings in the Pandemic with Marlies Yearby, in collaboration with the Arts Envoy program at the US Embassy. My name is Ajeng Sharfina, and I am the project manager and your moderator for this evening's workshop. And before we start, I would like to note that our session tonight will be conducted in English, but we have Indonesian interpretations available, so simply click on the interpretation button right on the bottom right on your screen, right next to the record button, to activate it. Right. And without further ado, on behalf of JPAC, I would like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. I see some familiar names from JPAC and also from fellow theater communities in Jakarta and outside the city as well. And I see some new names here too. Hello there. Um, for those of you who are new to our community, JPAC, or Jakarta Performing Arts Community, is a nonprofit organization that focuses on youth empowerment through performing arts. Founded in 2014, we were the first English-speaking community theater who held licensed productions of shows such as West Side Story, Dreamgirls, Company, and currently showing right now online, The Last 5 Years. And we are so humbled and we're so excited to have this wonderful opportunity to talk and have a conversation and learn from seasoned artists and professionals like our speaker here tonight. And for that, we have our friends at the U.S. Embassy to thank. So I would like to welcome Mary Treshok as a representative of the embassy for an opening remark. Mary, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ajeng. Good evening, welcome, and thank you to all of you for joining us for tonight's Life in Broadway event. My name is Mary Treshok. I'm the Assistant Cultural Attaché here at U.S. Embassy in Jakarta. Before I begin, saya mau bicara kepada semua yang menonton acara ini di Indonesia. Saya harap Anda semua tetap berada di rumah dan tetap aman. Saya harap Anda dan keluarga Anda tetap sehat. Bersama dengan melakukan bagian kita akan bisa melalui masa yang sulit sekali ini. So stay safe, stay well. I hope that we can get through this together. Back to business. First of all, I want to thank the Jakarta Performing Arts community, not only for hosting this event and sharing it with the audience, but for your work in the performing arts and especially musical theater over many, many years in Indonesia. On behalf of the U.S. Embassy, I'm honored to welcome our presenter, Marlies Yearby, a Tony Award-winning and Drama League Award-winning choreographer, director, and activist. She's widely known for her choreography on the musical Rent, but has also worked on some of America's most famous stages. Marlies is the founder and director of Move Spirits Dance Theater and the Dance Hackett Project. Her work with the U.S. State Department Arts Envoy program fosters cross-cultural understanding and collaboration, demonstrating the shared values and aspirations of artists and activists across the globe. Tonight, she'll speak on the intersection of arts and activism in light of the pandemic. So I hope you all enjoy the program, and I hope to see you all again at future events, both for JPAC and the U.S. Embassy here in Indonesia. Welcome, Marlies, to the virtual Jakarta Center Stage. Back over to you.
Thank you so much, Marlies, and sorry, Mary. And without further ado, because I'm so excited, you guys, without further ado, let's welcome our speaker tonight, Marlies. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much, Ajeng. Thank you, Mary, and thank you for the embassy to have this envoy program that really allows artists to connect with other artists across the globe. It's beautiful, and I'm so happy to be here with you. We made it.
We made it. We're so excited. So
Yeah.
how's things there with you?
You know, things are going well. I'm here with my dad right now. I'm doing some caregiving for him right now, and that is a huge blessing. Yeah, so I am good. I am really good. How about you? How are you doing?
That's great. That's great to hear. Here, I'm doing well, but unfortunately here in a lot of parts of Indonesia, we're back on lockdown because cases are getting high again. So I hope that everyone here, like Mary said, is staying safe and staying healthy, and hopefully we can stay happy and productive as well tonight. And that's kind of what I'm so excited to talk about here, because we talked earlier in the week, and you said that this past year or so, with the difficult times right now, actually, I'm gonna take my Oh, sorry. I think it's my mic is something is wrong
I don't know, there's like a hissing sound that's beginning
Right.
to take over your voice.
I hear it too. Hold on. Okay, I think it's gone now.
Gone. Yes, it's gone.
Yes. So
Technology.
amazing, right? Where was I?
We were talking about earlier this week when we were talking about staying present in the pandemic creatively and
Mhm.
with our health. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think, you have done so many awesome things. You've done so many, all these wonderful, wonderful works. And I think we'd just like to pick at your brains a little bit, and see what your process is like and how has these creative endeavors have been for you you know, throughout your career and especially this past year. And mhm.
Oh, I was, were you asking me that question now? Do you
Yes.
want me to talk about that now?
Mm,
Okay.
yeah, why don't you give us a little bit of preview?
Okay. Um, Well, I'm going to tell you, one of the things was how to discover to still be intimate in the box, in the container of the box, because my work is very intimate. In that dance has a very tactile relationship. And even when I'm directing, it has a very tactile relationship. So how can I bring that intimacy across screens? And one of the things that I discovered in some of the workshops that I did was I would do my eye contact work that we do in workshops in person. And it was amazing how just that simple gesture in the workshops created a community, created a way by which people were listening to each other and trusting the box in a different way. So, eye contact, lots of water, laughing every day, no matter what. That begins it.
Right. That's yeah, I think those are three things that sometimes we overlook, right? But those are the three really, really important things in life, no matter, come rain, come shine, right?
Right.
Um, so we're gonna watch a little video from you, and we're gonna get to know you a little bit better. And why don't you tell us a bit about what we're gonna see in this video?
Well, I was asked to talk a little bit about the business of theater and the making of work and how you can make a life as an artist, thrive as an artist. So I talked a little bit about that. I shared a little bit of my story and a little bit of my insights and a little, um, tactical information that maybe you can walk with. So I hope you enjoy it.
All right.
I had fun making it.
Yes, thank you so much. So we're gonna watch the video from Marlies right now, and I would like to remind our attendees once again that we have interpreters available. Just click on the bottom on the interpretation button on the bottom right of your screen. And if you have any question at any point, please use the Q&A chat box, or if you have any comments or anything like that, feel free to use the chat box. Feel free to use, and let us know if you have any technical troubles, and we're going to be happy to help you. But let's get on and watch the video.
Hi, Jakarta. My name is Marlies Yearby, and I am a choreographer. I am the Tony Award nominated original choreographer of Rent. And I've been asked to talk a little bit about my journey, my personal journey, with the business of being a choreographer. So I'm going to take a little time to talk about that, but I'm going to make sure that I cover the most important topic to me as a choreographer, an artist in the business of theater or in any business of art, and that is self-care, because I don't think we talk enough about that. And it is as important as the business. And matter of fact, it should be considered a part of the business. But that being said, let me start off with saying, as a choreographer, I am charged with making the dances for the stage. And in the history of dance in theater, a lot of times the story is transitioned with the dance, as is the set. I don't come from that background. I came from a background of what is called concert dance, and then I took my own path that I called dance theater. And for me, that really began when I was in school. I went to San Jose State University and studied dance theater. Originally studied biological sciences and then went to dance in the Department of Dance Theater. And from there, had the opportunity to really look at the behind the scenes, what it takes to build work for the stage. I was blessed with being able to take all the choreography classes through graduate studies without being a graduate. So I went really advanced in that area. And I was also really inspired by my mother. She gave me a sense of how to create by the fact that she was an artist who put her work on hold to raise family. And in raising the family, her love for live music always kept me engaged with real music. And I loved that. I noticed that it informed the body how to move, even more so. And even my own body, it informed my body how to move. So early on, developing my craft that way and having the pleasure of being able to study with many different choreographers, dance teachers, theatrical teachers, all of this made a difference in terms of how I saw my work, how I saw it come together. Early on also, I noticed that if I would listen to music before I would go to sleep, I would dream the dance, you know. So finding my craft, and you have to find your craft. You have to find what is your approach to making the work. Be the person who understands their technique, their processes enough so that you can adapt it to the trends that are happening as opposed to chasing the trends. Don't chase the trends. Let the work come to you in that regard. Once you understand your craft, understand what it does in production. And here becomes your collaborations. Discover what your work does as a choreographer working with writers. Discover what your work does working with visual artists. Discover it with live music. Discover it with canned music. Discover it with visuals, you know, projections. Discover it along every aspect. Discover what it is to be an installation, to dance among these trees, you know, whatever is around you. Discover it, because it only prepares your palette to be wide enough to go wherever you want to go and tell the story in whatever way you see the story to tell. And my first love beyond live music was the discovery of writing through poetry. And I worked with a lot of poets. And that began a real quest for me in theater, because a lot of those poets loved the way I worked with their work in my work. And as a result of that, they wanted me to be on their projects. Sometimes as a choreographer, sometimes as a director, sometimes as a choreographer, performer as well, in many different aspects. And as a result of that, I started meeting directors. And then the directors started wanting me to work on their projects with other writers, and then having the opportunity as a result of that of meeting other writers. So it is cyclical, and I think it's hugely important to
value the collaborations that you have and how you're working in your own work, but also be open to how those collaborators expand you and want you to go beyond your own craft, your own understanding of your work, to embody their work. And that is really how I got into theater. I got into theater through making relationships. And through people valuing my work, my aesthetic. I had an aesthetic. And that aesthetic didn't look just like one thing. Rent, the property that I did for Rent, it looks very different than Rita Dove's Darker Face of the Earth. Looks very different than Oedipus Plays. All of it looks different from each other. And the reason why that is because I research. It is still my work. You'll still see some isms that you'll note are definitely from my basket. But alongside of that, you also see it being impacted by whatever is telling the story in that moment. Be it the book, which often is the ultimate guide, but the music sometimes can tell a different story than the book is telling. Yes, it comes together, but a different side of the story is what I'm trying to say. And definitely how the set or installation is created for the environment by which it's going to perform it impacts how you, as the choreographer, can conceive that work, can tell that story. Even the costumes can become a new boundary or a new place to explore. So really, as the choreographer, you are part of a team. And that team and the way they are also exploring or creating for the work, for the book, impacts how you can create and can be a point of inspiration or a point of a thorn in your side. And that really depends on you, So what I do is early on inside of the room, I'm already taking my understanding of collaboration that I built inside of my own work and following through with that inside the context of the theater production building. So I listen in, I go to the production meetings, not only because usually are required to go to the production meetings to understand what the next day is and to give your schedule and needs, but also to peek in and hear kind of what everybody's talking about, because it really does help keep a cohesiveness in your understanding and your building of the craft. So I think along the way you've recorded everything. You want to have a record. You want to have a record of how you developed the work, how you developed it along the way. It is also something that you can go back to when you're remounting the work, or even when you're cleaning up the work. If you're blessed to have the work have longevity and have a real run, you want to be able to do that. But it is also your record. And in America, it is a backup to your copyright. As a choreographer, your work, especially in a union environment, it has an inherent copyright in it. But to copyright your work, if you have that material that shows you how you created the work in the process of that, it becomes a backup to it, as well as your notes. Keep copious notes on what you're doing, how you're coming up with the material, because it's an important part of your journey, and it allows you to build off of your record, your body of evidence of who you are and the legacy that you can leave behind. And it allows for you to have a way by which to help others remount your work as well. Along the way, you're going to get contracts in front of you, legal papers all the time. That is a part of the journey of you stepping into a room to build work, especially as you go further in your career. And the early part, a lot of times, it's just about collaborating, getting together, sharing those ideas. Those are precious times. And then suddenly, as time goes on and you become more valued, you start stepping into rooms where contract becomes a part of the relationship. Take your time to really understand and read your contract. If you can have a lawyer or an agent or someone help you with that, great. If you're not at that place yet and you don't have that, learn to read your contract. More than just read it, learn what it says. And now you have so many ways that you can understand the legal jargon or the information in your contract in a way that maybe you didn't have before, because there's a lot of resources for you out there. In the United States, we have something that is called volunteer lawyers for the arts, and I've used them over the years, and they have helped me do many things, and I am grateful for them. So, find your support system around that. Once you get to a place where you're on Broadway, by then you have legal assistance. You have an agent usually by then. Usually you have a relationship with an attorney by then, because Broadway is not the place where you begin. Broadway is a place where you land. Yeah. And it comes from building those relationships, getting on a work that has long legs, and a lot of times I'm looking for the new story that's being told. I'm not necessarily looking for the thing that's going to Broadway. I wasn't looking for the thing that was going to Broadway when I wound up on Broadway. It happened, and I learned a lot and made myself more aware as time went on, and these are some of the things that I learned. So learning about your contract is huge. So at the point you're on Broadway, you will have that together. If you don't, shame on you. But you should have it together by then. Because once you're in the unions, which Broadway is ran by unions. Everybody on Broadway is in a union. They are either in equity for actors, they're in the equity. For myself as a choreographer and for directors, we're in the SDC, stage directors and choreographers. For musicians, they have their union. Stage crew has their union. Costume designers, the design team has their union. Everyone has their union on Broadway. And how you make work is now very dictated by the union, which is very different when you're making work in other theatrical venues. All theater venues are not union. So, and all productions aren't union. I'm currently mounting the 25th anniversary, which actually is a non-equity, which means non-union, tour. And although I am union and I chose to have my contract be dictated by that, the others, many people aren't in the union. And although we tour many union houses, the performers themselves aren't union. So you'll vacillate back and forth, but ultimately once you're in a union, usually it guides what you do and how you do it. Sometimes that is to really support you, and then sometimes it can feel like a hindrance. That depends on you. Once you have a production that mounts onto Broadway, that is a whole different dynamic. The production must make money for it to survive anywhere, but on Broadway, with it being guided by all the unions, it has to make a certain amount of money. Time becomes essential because it's expensive. So you have a specific amount of time to mount the work onto a Broadway stage. I mean, a chair getting moved is handled by one craft. A spiking of the chair is handled by another. The stage sound is handled by another. Everybody has their area, and everybody working together in a timely, concise fashion makes it go. And if you don't have that, you don't have your production. and you don't have that longevity because you didn't get it done. So now it's dictated by a different requirement, as is your relationship to press, and everything around it becomes a part of the commodity that makes the show the show. And that's huge. That took me a moment to understand that. And it is huge. And it is an amazing machine when it's working right. Which doesn't mean that creative stories aren't told. What it means is that everybody has to work on its tightest, ready to go gig in order for that story to be told. If it's not marketable, it's not going to go to Broadway. Which means that the marketing department has to find a story that they can tell in a way that supports the work. Nowadays, as social media is a very big part of what we're doing, you also must figure out how you utilize your skills in your storytelling, especially if you're on stage. That's required. For me as a choreographer, I did not come through with social media. Social media was not my thing. I knew nothing about it. Now I've been learning about social media because I now understand that social media is a business extension to what we're doing. It is not just social media. And for a long time, I just thought it was a way to express ourselves and to talk and to share. Yeah, it's that for many people. But for you as an artist in the business, you will now learn how to utilize social media as you would if you had a marketing agent. But now you're your own marketing agent, and everything that you do out in that craft is expressive of that. And when you're around a production, you want that feed to be filled with that information because it is taking you somewhere. And once you're on Broadway, once you're on a Broadway production, equally to understanding your time, communicating clearly, knowing your craft, being able to execute it in any given environment, understanding the unions that are there and how everybody functions and how you function within the structure of everyone's union. And what it means to now be a part of the show, equally along with all of that, the relationships that you're building, the way that you worked when you were off Broadway, now on Broadway, you need to still do that. You need to still build relationships. It is an important part of doing what we do. You have to love this to do this. It is not a simple thing. It doesn't just happen. A lot of work goes into it. I love what I do. And so as a result of that, I find ways to do it again and again and again. And now that we've been shut down for this year, I have found new ways to express myself because above it all, beyond everything, creating is important to me. It is my lifeline. Expressing myself artistically is important to me. It is my lifeline. And this is why, and particularly why in this last year, I think has been devastating for the community of artists. Everywhere, as well as in every aspect of every industry. But those of us who have weathered it well, weathered it because we also understood self-care. And I cannot talk with you enough about self-care. So I am going to go into that, and it's going to start with me saying, have a glass of lemonade, limeade. This has no sugar in it. And it strengthens my body because I feel good about it. It hydrates me because it has water in it and it loves me. So, And I'm drinking it in my mason jar because I'm in the South hanging out with my dad, and mason jars are cool. All right. And with that, I'm going to say, learning to put your oxygen mask on every day that you wake up, before you step out in the world, before you create anything, is the basis and the foundation of sustainability for a long, creative, and joyful life, no matter what is going on. And to strike that balance is the most brilliant thing I can offer you in this moment in time. Because if you are balanced inside of that, every opportunity that comes your way, you will have the capacity to take it. You will have the capacity to take it. Yes? So self-care is huge. And in my self-care, I will talk a little bit about writing, learning to dump on the page. Some people call it morning pages, night pages. I call it dumping on the page. Learning to center your breath, learning to embrace silence, learning to get wet every day of your life. Get wet, which means sweat. Yes? Every day, sweat. Learning to do that. And learning to eat and nourish your body with healthy, vibrant foods, real foods. Yes? These are just some of the tips that I'm going to say to you. And stay connected with whatever grounds you. Thank you, Jakarta. Ask me any questions. I'm ready to receive them all. And I hope that I've said a little bit of something that makes a difference for you today on your journey into the theater. And if you are interested in being a choreographer, there's something about being a choreographer that grows up inside of you. It's beyond something that you learn.
Thank you so much. That was Marley's. I think that video encompasses so many things. From the creative process to the logistical side of it, and it's really such a treat to see, to get an insight in all of that. And so first, I would just like to ask you, what is your development process like? When you start, maybe when you start thinking about creating something, like how does it go for you?
Wow. When I'm creating from scratch, and it's my work, it really starts with an impulse. It literally feels like something either triggers something visually I saw, something somebody said, um, or something that happened in the news, and I just start rolling on it. And the next thing you know, I get images or I get words nowadays that I start writing as a result of that. Sometimes I'm hearing music and then I call one of my composer collaborators and say, I'm hearing this thing that sounds like this and it came from this and I don't know why. Literally, it starts off with my own questions and then begins the process of discovery and research and exploring it on bodies around me. Uh, but when I'm invited into a world, let's say I'm needing to choreograph a piece, I need to find the impulse that moves me. And I find my nighttime sleep is hugely important for my creative process because I dream. I actually dream dancing bodies. Yes, I wake up hearing words to write, but inside of choreographing, I like to listen to the music before I go to sleep, which means I'm not going to have a great REM sleep, yet it is in that sort of between state that all these dancing bodies are moving through my head. And sometimes it's like stuff that I don't even know how that could potentially be executed. So it starts off by tuning in and or following an impulse.
Right. That's really cool. To think of, like even sleeping is, I guess, like a part of your creative process. When your mind goes, you know, at a different pace, right? When you're sleeping, and then like it gives you all these amazing new ideas and everything. And with the past year, suddenly we were struck with, we're faced with the fact that we're going to be staying at home basically the whole time.
Yeah.
And I think that, at least for me, at first it was very difficult to find my voice, or just like to find my bearings creatively. Like, I don't know what I want to do in this, in this situation, in this quarantine and everything. But did you experience that as well, like in the beginning of the pandemic? And like, how did you find your voice?
Well, it was interesting because at the beginning of the pandemic, I was planning on going to India. I was going to give myself a month in India that I had been dreaming about for a lot of years. So it got shut down. Um, and so yeah, you have to take a moment to grieve the moment. So I took a moment to grieve the moment because I was really looking forward to that time for myself because I hadn't had that kind of time, a month of just being with myself. I hadn't had that. So I was looking forward to that. In lieu of that, what I discovered was them online, and I started a exchange with them online and learned a lot of beautiful things working live with them online. And that was the Govardhan School in India, Eco Village in India. Then I found access to people that I haven't had a chance to speak to because we're all working. We're all so busy. We're just flying. So next thing you know, we were just talking again, and that was really great to catch up with people. and to listen to what they were doing and what they were thinking about, and spark some collaborations that started coming out of that. I developed a creative cluster group, and with the intention that we met bi-weekly. We are still meeting. It has been very inspirational. We are all working on different things. It is sort of an accountability group where we hold each other accountable, but we also listen to each other and support each other, you know. So we found ways and gave each other ideas on how to work beyond the lockdown. How can we still work, you know?
Mhm.
I was invited into a Harvard class by a woman named Dr. Shamel Bell, who is a dance activist, who has a company called Street Dance Activism. And I met her through my dance associate on Rent, Miri Park, who invited me to come in and do like a meditation, a breathing, centering work with them, a guided dance meditation. So I said, okay, I didn't know anything about this woman. Well, the next thing I know, I'm in her Harvard class, and I met this incredible woman named Lady Phoenix. And she was talking about artists needing to make NFTs, which I was like, what are we talking about now? But next thing I know, I found myself diving into um, working with all the technology that's out there to play and to hear my creative impulses and to see my creative impulses. I started playing around with pictures that I had. I started taking painting courses. I found myself writing and sending it off again to composers to play around musically with my ideas, and picked up old script ideas that I had not had a chance to work on. And it just kept flowing, one thing after another, after another, after another. Everybody became accessible because we were all sitting still.
Mhm. Right. So there's like, I think there's like an unexpected um, accessibility,
Yes.
within these limitations that we have. Yeah. And I think it's really cool that you have this whole group that you can collaborate with. I think that's so exciting. And
Yeah.
you support each other, you hold each other accountable and everything. And I think that's what we aspire to do as well. Even before the pandemic, and now going into another lockdown, and hopefully when things get better again, hopefully this kind of solidarity will still be here with us. And going back to your creative process, so we had this, ideas can come from all these amazing places, right? From yourself, from people, from bodies, from news, from having colleagues and friends and collaborators. I guess my next question is, how do you make that happen? Sometimes we have all these ideas, right? But how
Mm.
do we make that happen? How do we, bring it to life? How do you bring it to
Yes.
life?
Yes. Well, if I'm working in the choreographic vein, I need bodies. There's only so far I can go in my head,
Mhm.
you know. And the bodies in the room are hugely important to me because who they are in the room, especially if they're embodying character or personas. Sometimes I call them dance personas if it's more concert. If it's more theater, then they're working from a character. I want to understand the script, so I'm reading the script, but I'm listening to the music, and then I'm beginning to open my eyes to all of the elements around it and who is telling the story, because for me the story doesn't necessarily always lie in the book. So once I'm able to get into a room and explore on those bodies, that is a whole nother space, because everybody's body carries information, more than the information of how they're interpreting the script and or the music, but also who they are, you know? Some of my greatest impulses in choreography have come from just watching people, watching people in the rehearsal environment, seeing who they are outside of their character, and the bridge that they draw to getting in their character. I then like to take that bridge of who they are and who they are as the character, blend them together, and then that gives me that authenticity. That gives me that realness on the stage that I love. Yeah. So it starts like that. It starts with listening. I am listening to their bodies.
Hmm. Right.
And then I'm listening to my impulses. And I know nothing is wasted and nothing is thrown away. I don't let myself be afraid to throw something out there and it be a hot mess. Hot mess is good, because out of hot mess comes something brilliant. Yeah.
Hmm. And like, I think nothing ever comes out perfect right in the beginning, right?
Yes, I worked with this incredible woman named Bobby Bolden. She was named Bobby Wynn back in the day when I danced with her, and she loved the mistakes. She said the mistakes are golden. Just get up and keep doing it. And so I've always kind of rocked with that. I love the mistakes. There's nothing wrong with a mistake because brilliance comes out of the recovery. Yeah.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's something that we also need to, at least me personally, and I know a lot of people who feel like we need to overcome this because the mistake feels huge at first. Who feel like, oh, there's no coming back to that.
Yeah, it's the comeback that is the beauty. One of the things that I do when I'm teaching in a workshop environment and we're playing with material, I teach the artist that is in the workshop, if they get stumped, make up the script. If you lose what you're speaking about, speak the idea of it and keep rolling. If you lost the choreography that I gave you, improvise until you get back on point. Until I say stop or release is my word, I say release, I want to see it keep going. I want to see it keep going until I say release, because all the mistakes are impulses. They just come up inside of you. Sometimes you are forgetting and you're stuck in a place because there's something coming up that maybe as a creative team we need to listen to. But if you're criticizing yourself and editing yourself, so the teaching the artist how to shut down the editor is one thing I'm very good at. You got to shut down the editor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's that, right? I think that's one of our um, biggest inhibition. The main inhibition is the editor.
That's,
We constantly try to edit ourselves and we try to make it perfect or try to make it smooth, even though it's not sometimes, and that's okay.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Giving yourself permission to fail.
Exactly. And there's
Failure has great success.
right, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, there's to quote, I feel like this is so cheesy to say, but to quote Rent again, there's no day but today, to try that out.
Not cheesy, brilliant words. Thank you, Jonathan Larson. There is no day but today.
No day but
Absolutely.
today.
Absolutely.
We have a comment here from Fonita, who said, this is really cool information, Marlies. I daydream a lot, and it used to be something I'm ashamed of, but now it helps me create a world of imagination to start my creative process in directing theater.
Yes. And I discovered early on as a kid, um, my my father used to have a heart attack because he would send me in to do the dishes, and inevitably the dishes would start talking to each other. Whole scenes would develop, little pieces of choreography would develop. 2 hours later, the plate is still this, the kitchen is still a rat, but Marlies has created a whole piece of theater. Yeah. And so early on, that space, that daydream, make up, discovery space was alive in me. And what I found is when I tried to shut it down and be the idea of normal, I silenced myself and made myself uncomfortable. Yeah. But as long as I allowed it to flow, a friend of mine, amazing composer named Cooper Moore, said, we live as artists on the edge of sanity and insanity. And to embrace that in order to create, you go to some places. It's a world we're making up, out of the air. Writers are making worlds, composers are making worlds. Choreographers are creating worlds. They're writing the script through the body. These are amazing things. Visual artists are making a world. You make it out of nothing, an impulse that comes. And if you don't allow for that space where you play, you must play, no matter what age, you must play in order to create. Yeah.
Right. It's sort of like freeing ourselves from these rules that sometimes we ourselves make, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. You have to be willing to break the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Artists constantly break the rules. Yeah. The mere fact that we exist at all, and we've existed through the beginning of time, yes?
Mm-hmm.
We exist to break the rules. We exist to see something and bring it in front. Sometimes it's life altering. Rent was a blessing in that I've had people today at 13 years old talk about it changed their life because it gave them the permission to be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So art is huge in that way. And whether you're dealing with something as abstract or something as nonlinear or something as very specific and linear as a story, somebody is impacted. And I remember my first time seeing, I think one of the first performances I saw was Dance Theater of Harlem, outside of my mother, who was always taking me to live jazz music. But Dance Theater of Harlem was my first dance that I saw. And although my dance is completely different from that world, it impacted me. I remember Firebird. I just remember seeing Firebird. Yes. I remember seeing The Wiz, a version of The Wiz when I was young. I mean, yeah, it impacts and it stays with you. And when you see something or hear something that takes you to a place, that's golden. And artists, sometimes we don't realize how impactful we can be.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think that is a very I don't know, a very powerful message to keep to ourselves as well when we're creating, when we're exploring, and when we're trying out all of these things, that it impacts ourselves, it impacts others, other people, and in ways that maybe we could never imagine. I think Rent also has that kind of effect on me. It's one of the first movie musicals that I got into. And like I think I got into it when I was like around 15 or 16, so like I was starting to like discover myself as well. So I thought, oh, this is very interesting, and it's very touching in that sense as well. um, seeing people having finding their own family and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Finding your own family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that message was very clear inside of there. Really trusting to understand and love yourself without question. Be who you are, whatever that is. That is huge. And as artists, we have to trust that we have these creative impulses. And sometimes we get caught up with the concept of, and it's been very well taught here in America, and I'm not sure how it is for you all out there in Indonesia, but the idea that artistry means that you will starve. So that is the first thing. And if you go into being an artist, more than likely you will starve. We have that starving artist language, which was a part of how we think of art and artistry. That's very unfortunate because it's a rich beyond the fines of money. It is a rich gift to have, you know. And early on, I did not think of myself as a starving artist. Doesn't mean there were days that I didn't just eat off of a bag of rice, you know, for weeks on end with ketchup and whatever I could put on it. It didn't mean that I didn't have that, but I understood that I had an incredible gift and that that gift would take care of me somehow. I believed that. And I tested those waters. I remember when I was in college, I took a year off to discover if I could do it as an artist, just be a working artist. I said, I will be a working artist. I put that in my head early on. And I remember I bought a car for $150. It had no front rail. It had no window on the driver's side. And I went and I was choreographing for theater, choreographing for Bobby Wynn and Company, teaching at the high school, running a dance studio. I did all of that in that year. I was zipping back and forth in my little, you know, no window car, 45 minutes one way from San Jose to Oakland, from San Jose to San Francisco. And somehow that year I worked harder than I had in my lifetime at that point, but I survived as being an artist. I survived. I paid my rent. I paid my I ate, you know, paid my gas. I made it happen. And that was in a place that did not support, in San Jose, it was really not a good place to grow up to grow your artistry because it wasn't very well supported. They always brought artists from the outside. They didn't necessarily support the local artists there. So, but I found my way. And then that moment I had the bug. I said, I don't know how, but I know I'm going to do this for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's really cool. And, you know, unfortunately, it is the same thing in Indonesia as well, where, you know, if you're an artist, then you're going to starve. And I totally agree with what you said. It's really too bad because we have such richness to this whole world that we have. And I think what we have, you know, our friends here today, we're all dying to share that with the rest of the world. So, and I think with what you said earlier, going back and forth to San Jose, to San Francisco, to Oakland, you know, in your car, and then like doing all of these things, like, how do you also, how do you, I guess I can connect this to a question from our audience as well. How do you avoid having burnout? Like when your passion becomes your job, you know, it feels, you know, if we feel like there's a lot of repetition, you know, we do this and that and this and that and this and that. Like how did you handle that, like throughout your career?
Yeah. You know, you learn hard lessons. You have a burnout. And then when you have a burnout, you don't like burnout. And so then you find ways that you don't burn out. And so one of the most important things is you have to develop a practice that starts when you wake up and ends when you go to bed. And that is the moment where I'm putting on my oxygen mask. Yeah. And so for me, on the days when I'm doing it right, and because life is not perfect and there are days where I do not do it right, but I note the difference on the days when I'm doing it right, I roll out of that bed, I dump on that page, I dump. For 2 minutes, I just allow myself to write. I don't edit. I don't scratch it out. I don't judge what I say. If I don't have nothing to say I have nothing to say until something comes. But I just write whatever. And then at the end of it, I make a statement to myself, a declaration. I claim my day. I claim my day. And I claim where I'm going to be at in my day. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's perfect, but it sets me up. It already sets me up to listen to myself, to take care of myself, to put myself first in the equation. Yes, because without that, if I'm not here, does it get done? Yeah, it gets done by somebody else. So I learned how to, you know, to take care of myself. You know, you can take care of yourself. So I start off with that. If I'm doing it right, then my next thing, I'm hitting that mat. For me now, yoga is what I'm loving to do in my body. And I tried to turn on some music at one point during that time period to just shake my body and dance and just do what I do. And then I try to listen to something inspirational. Even and all of these things, it sounds like, God, well, she has a long morning, hours. No, just minutes doing that. Minutes doing that. And nowadays, every morning I got a smoothie. So I would say back then, when I was running, my first vacation I had was when I did rent. That's not healthy. Don't do that. Don't wait till you have a big thing and say you can take a break. You know, there were artists around me who were far less financially well than I was at that time, and they were traveling around the world, just relaxing sometimes. You
Yeah.
got to build into your mindset. You got to claim that you need that time, and then you have to give it to yourself in small ways. Yeah, you have to give it to yourself in small ways.
Mm-hmm.
Build it in, build it into your cycle. You
Mm-hmm.
know, baths are huge. If you can take a bath, and that's a luxury because sometimes, units don't have baths, especially like in New York. Sometimes you just have that shower, you don't have a bath.
Yeah.
And plus, it seems like it's expensive, waste of water. Well, if you can't get into a bathtub and you can't get into a lake and you can't get into an ocean, you know, find ways to be next to water or what speaks to you. I had a friend of mine, he was a wonderful healer, creative person. He said, Marlies, go put your hand on a tree. You need to go put your hand on a tree. I know that sounds wild. Get yourself in nature. Put your feet on nature. Put your hand on a tree. Sit and breathe with it for a while. That's a long way to say you have to build in breaks. You have to build in time for yourself. You have to connect to something that grounds you. For me, nature grounds. There's actually a scientific study that says if you put your feet on the earth, or put your hand on a tree, you actually re-energize your body. You actually re-electrify your body. There's a study that actually says that.
Wow,
Who
that's
knew?
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It actually charges you up. And I actually found that if I do it, I actually get more energy.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So those little breaks, if you're in the middle of a 10 out of 12, I don't know about you all, but when we hit the theater and we're in tech production time, we do the 10 out of 12. Require yourself on that break to go outside. I don't care if it's raining. Go in outside and take in the air. Yeah. Let the sun hit you if you can. Let the water hit you. Whatever's out there, let it hit you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's a popular saying nowadays. When people start to talk a lot of nonsense on the internet, people would say like, "You need to touch some grass." But I think now it has a lot of truth to it.
Yes. Because sometimes we're spiraling, we're moving so fast, we don't have an awareness that we are generating craziness and we're putting the crazy out there.
Hmm.
And so we have to, it's great that we have a mirror back and somebody says, go touch some grass. That's great. We need those people that will reflect back to us and let us know that we need to ground. We need our people. You got to build a team around you. It's so important. You don't do this alone. I don't care what your craft is, whether it be a writer, a visual artist, choreographer, director, whatever you have going on, you must build a team. And that team has to be willing to say to you, you're in crazy mode. You need a break. They need to be able to feed back to you. You need real people that are able to feed back to you, not just pat you on the back and
Yeah.
not just push you forward. Not just that team that says, when are you going to do the next gig? What's the next big project? You don't need that alone. You also need that team that will reflect back to you where you are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I guess we have another question here from our attendee. Um, I think adding up to the question about the burnout, like how do you stay passionate and how do you stay motivated about your art and I guess your hobby, your interests, this creative side of yourself. during the pandemic when the boredom hits?
When the boredom hits. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I can't remember the last time I've been bored. But when you feel like you're bored, more than likely you've gotten into a rhythm of sameness, and you need to change up that. See, every day for me is a day of possibilities of something new. Every day. I tried to structure my day down so tight so that I do and accomplish a lot during the pandemic. I found it useful sometimes and highly unuseful other times. So now I look for the surprise in the day, and I try to listen for the impulse. And I have little things around me, like I'll take my camera and I'll go out and I'm just gonna walk in the immediate area that I'm at and take pictures of something. Or I'll look for the smaller things and not just the big ideas, and hone in and take a picture. And now I discovered, like I said, I discovered all these digital programs that allow you to play, and I play with that. Luckily I have a dog. I have impulses in where I'm at right now. My father, all of these things are impulses that I'm not used to necessarily, and change the rhythm of my life. So you have to change the monotony of what you're doing. If what you're doing is watching TV every day, then you got to turn off that TV and give yourself an assignment. I give myself an assignment, go and I write something. I give myself a reason to write. Go film something. I give myself a reason to film. Go dance. I give myself a structure or a reason to dance. Yes. So you got to discover the things that you want to play with, and then find ways to play with them in the space that you're in.
Right. So again, like, get out of the sameness. Yeah.
Out of the sameness. Break it up.
Break it up. Right.
Yeah. Break it up.
And going into, thank you so much. And I hope that answers the question for the anonymous attendee who asked the question. I want to go back to, earlier we talked about the process and the hustle behind it. And a lot of our friends here are amazing creators and directors and writers and dancers. And we had, here in Indonesia, it's almost similar in the US. It's not exactly, art is not something that is, it's not a first choice for many parents.
It wasn't mine.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't mine either. But like, how did you get your work out there? So, we talked about the process. Now, when the work is done, how do we get it out there?
Well, now that's an interesting thing. Everybody's work is different. So let's talk about something specific. You've got to have an audience for what you do as an artist. I can't think. Can you think of a craft in artistry that you don't need an audience?
I don't think so.
One. So you got to find your audience. So I'm going to say this. During the pandemic, your audience is very different than out in the real world right now, right? So this is our real world. We are in the pandemic, and some countries are opening, and we hope they stay. Some countries are shut. So if you are in a place where you are shut, yes, then your audience is either going to be the people around you, or the audience is going to be somewhere on this screen. Yeah. And don't be afraid to create those opportunities. And so what if one person shows up to hear the reading of the script that you just wrote? Find now people are more accessible to you than they have ever been before. So if you have ever wanted to have so-and-so look at your visual work, yeah, or so-and-so mentor your choreography, or so-and-so, then now is a good time to reach out to those people and potentially have them engage with your work. Also, because all the venues have been shut for so long, a lot of venues are doing like micro works where they're showing artists in little snippets of their work in development, or little pieces that artists make, be it film like, or talking about their script, or playing a piece of the music that they're developing. And you can find venues that will actually allow you to engage and to show something. So begin to reach out to those places that maybe you wouldn't have reached out to before, or you might have been a little hesitant. Now is a good time because they're gonna eventually open, we hope, yeah. And when that happens, they're gonna want something. And you may have just provided the thing that they need to see. So you gotta send it out. You gotta send it out, or you gotta create your audience for feedback. A friend of mine is writing a book, and she said one of the stages of her writing the book was to send it out to have readers read the book and then feedback to her questions. Yes? So no matter what your craft is, a friend of mine is choreographing a new piece during the pandemic, started in the pandemic, and will continue to work virtually. He discovered how to rehearse virtually. Yes? And so he would show the film in the creative cluster. To get yourself a creative cluster. Artists that are making up work so you can get feedback. But outside of the pandemic, in a normal course, I would reach out to producers and presenters, and or I would rent a space and invite an audience and produce it on myself. If it's in the beginning stages of a reading of something that I've written, or if it's a piece of choreography that I just want an early stage feedback, that's one way that you can do that. Yeah. And social media, we cannot deny the power of it. It can be annoying to me. I'm just speaking on my personal impulse about it. But there's a way to utilize it to function, to support highlighting and getting people interested in your new project. There is a way that you can do that. I'm not an authority on that, but there are plenty of people out there who are. And I would say this is a good time to engage it if you feel like you're ready. Yeah.
So finding our audience, finding a creative cluster,
Finding the audience. Yeah.
peers who would give us feedback. Yeah.
Yeah. Feedback is huge. You need it. Criticism, good criticism, healthy criticism is good. You need it. I've mentored a lot of people in this last year, where I meet with them, I give them assignments and tasks, and then they go and they do it, and they call me when they have the task done, be it a month or a week, or 2 months. I leave that up to them. Yeah. So my concept is MMM, met my mule. Which means you give yourself the task. So where are you? Are you writing something right now, Ajeen? Are you a writer? What is your craft?
I'm an actor and I'm a singer, and recently I've started writing songs as well.
Look at that. Yeah. That's what happens in that pandemic. You start creating. Everybody starts creating, and that's beautiful. So as an actor and a singer and now a songwriter, you have 3 lanes that you can play in, right? So as an actor, social media, utilize it. Casting directors are looking right now. Everybody's home. So they have more time than they've had before. And, I have found some incredible, I hate to plug Clubhouse, but I got on Clubhouse, which I don't know that they have access to in Indonesia. But it was amazing to meet, other artists there and other producers of art there. And so that has been interesting. So again, you can utilize social media for your benefit. And as an actor, definitely playing around with making reels. I have seen people do whole one person shows that they made up in their house.
Yeah.
And I have to say that some of those people have gotten their next gig doing that, you know, as a singer. Put your song, there's so many, you know, yes, Spotify, all of these places that you could create and put your song out there. Or you can just be in gestation mode. But you as the artist have to know, are you ready to do the next step? And if you are ready to do the next step, find the audience, find the presenter or the producer, or decide that you are going to be the presenter or producer yourself.
Right. And I guess going into that, where we have we have less than 10 minutes left.
Time goes fast.
Flies. Time flies. I would like to ask you about like the difference between, you know, production scales, you know, when you're in the beginning during the development stages, and then, you know, when you do a whole production, a big team, like when you were doing Rent. Like,
Yeah.
what was that like?
Oh yeah. You know, when I was creating work under my company, Moving Spirits Dance Theater, I would wear all the hats up until we hit the theater, which meant oftentimes I would be the one finding the costumes. And if I couldn't afford to have that costume designer, I would be the one with the props, making up my little set piece or prop situation. I carried it all on my back on the subways and in the cabs, trying to get to where I needed to get to in New York. I wore all the hats and also created it and collaborated. And everybody relied on me to somehow make sure that they got paid. And whether that sometimes in my early stages, it was like $25 I could pay you for transportation and I will feed you to be in my room, you know? And then it went from that to then getting grants and which funding support, and or finding a presenter who believed in me, or a space that's off the beaten path. I would go to that space and let them nurture my work, and that made a huge difference. And then now I have some support around how I'm doing it. You know, maybe I now can afford my stage manager and a small production team giving me support along the way to head into the theater. And then as that began to journey further forward, I'm now beginning to work with other people in their theatrical productions. And then once you step into a theater space, if you are housed in that theater space and you are building the work in a home, well, now you automatically have a certain amount of support, eyes on you, feedback happening. And then when you have a situation where you can have lighting designer, costume designer, sound designer, tech crew, set designer, when you have all of those bodies around you, what is most brilliant is that you are no longer creating the whole world in one head. You are now being inspired by what's around you, and or, like I said in the video, being challenged by what's around you. But it is an amazing thing because it's amazing to have a team of creatives who are all basically there for the same thing, which is to see the production arrive on the stage. There's nothing like that. And yet it also holds great responsibility. So I love having the team. That big production, going to New York Theater Workshop, we were still in a non-for-profit downtown theater that was not on Theater Row. New York Theater Workshop was where Rent was developed. Most of the works that I've done in theater were either in regional theaters or in a non-for-profit local kind of theater setting, or we were producing it ourselves. We rented the space and made it happen, you know? So when you step into an environment in New York Theater Workshop. New York Theater Workshop definitely was a hands-on theater. They very much supported the creation of the work. When we made that leap to Broadway, it was like no one expected it but Jonathan. Jonathan always believed that this work was going to be a major transition in theater. It was going to change how theater thought about work. He just believed in it. And as an artist, you believe in everybody's vision around you, but you don't necessarily think much about it, you know? So when we made that leap to Broadway, it was huge. It was tragic and joyful all at the same time. And then when you hit Broadway, that was a whole different animal. Like I said, production on a large scale. Everything had speed. Yeah. And we got it done. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Even the set changed from off Broadway to Broadway. The small set changes that were there were also impacting, were there partially, yes, to help tell the story, because Jonathan had it set up in an environment. A visual artist, Paul Clay, made that environment. When we went to Broadway, something in that environment needed to move because the set designer union, they needed to be able to work. So it had to have moving pieces. And the two moving pieces was the trap door and the wall where contact happened.
Ah, that's so cool. That's
Yeah,
really cool. And
yeah,
it's just amazing to hear that kind of journey, because a lot of us, we started on, of course, and we started making the hats ourselves and wearing all the hats. Uh,
yep,
and as we tried to finish the hat, as Ms. Time said,
right.
I keep making this reference. Um, and then we gradually get move up to like small
Yes,
productions up until we make the big productions, and I think that's when the union support is really important, right? But here I'm again, another question from the audience is that we don't have a union in Indonesia, and so how, if you have any insight, like what kind of support the union gives to um, creative artists and the crews, the creatives and the crews and everyone working in it, and maybe how do we start a union, if or like how can we get started?
right, right. Well, you know what? It's called a standard of working, and that often is dictated by what an artist gets paid when they're in the room, the hours, the amount of hours and time that you can be allowed to work without a break. You need a break. You know, things begin to be built into the process that sometimes as creatives it feels jolting. Like for me, taking a 5 every hour or a 10 in the 2 hour slot feels off-putting as a when I'm in a choreographic state of mind, because sometimes we'll push barriers in time and then we'll take, a 30-minute break. But we've gone for 3.5, 4 hours. And so in the unions, they require breaks on a regular schedule. And if you miss one break, you have to make it up by doing a longer break. So you can start off by, as the artist coming together, what do you feel your base pay should be? What's the minimum an artist should get paid at what level? And it usually is based on the size of the house, because again, it has to make money. It's all about the balancing of the cost to make the production and how the production can recoup, and so the venue can survive. So it's the two things always jostling. So as artists, you kind of have to come together and talk about, what does that base need to look like? What is a healthy working environment? What do you want to address there? And maybe as artists, you can start to establish what that looks like for you. And then speak that to the venues and to the people around you that are your structure, your container.
Hmm. Right. So we start with setting our priorities. Like if I
Right.
may paraphrase that, yeah. what's important to us. The little, earlier we talked about breaking rules, right? But now we're making our own rules here.
Yeah.
We're setting
Yeah.
our boundaries and
Yeah. And that can be challenging. Yeah, because the boundaries you set, now you got to keep those boundaries, and you'll find that sometimes the creative process rubs up against the boundary of how to take care of ourselves and all be treated equitably.
right. Um, Unfortunately, thank you so much. That was something that I think to sort of round it off, because as artists we don't only work in the creative side, but we have to balance it with you know the adult stuff as well. We're freeing our inner child, the curiosity and everything, but we also have to deal with the paperwork.
Yes.
As you may. And I think that's like a whole package for us as creative professionals, creative artists. It's a very um, useful knowledge to have and to take away, hopefully, for from tonight's discussion. Unfortunately, that's the time that we have. Time really does
Went by
fly.
fast.
Wow, like I there's we have questions that we have yet to answer. Is there any way that our attendees here can reach out to you and maybe ask you questions about
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm on Instagram at Joy Dances 8. So you can absolutely inbox me, request whatever. I'll let you in as long as you're uh um mention this and I will let you in. Yeah, mention this and I will let you in. Facebook, similarly, you could pop me on Facebook. Twitter, I'm on Twitter as Marlies Yearby. I'm on Facebook as um Marlies Yearby. I also have marliesyearby.com, which is my website. And on there, there's a little form that you can fill out and ask a question. It'll drop into my email, and I can speak to you back and forth that way as well. So, yes, reach out. I would love it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I can't wait to. Hopefully, we'll get another opportunity to have a chat like this again.
Yes, absolutely. Let me know. I'm here. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And to close this off, I would like to say thank you again to all our attendees for joining our discussion tonight. And of course, to our friends at the US Embassy for making it possible. Who knew, right? This whole situation closed a lot of doors, but also opened a lot of new ones, because we probably wouldn't have had the time or the opportunity to talk to each other from across the globe like this.
Yep. I agree with you. You said it most perfectly. Yes. And thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Marlies. And just to close this off, we will have our fourth and final Learn from Broadway workshop later this month. Please stay tuned to JPAC's Instagram for more information. We'll announce it very soon. But in the meantime, we also have the last 5 years still streaming online every night at 7 p.m. Western Indonesia time, or I guess 7 a.m. in Central time. That's pretty early for you, Marlies.
It is. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to reach out to you and I'm going to watch it. Yes.
Wonderful. Would be so happy to have you. We have a little bit of trailer for you guys to see, just to see what the show is like. Check it out.
My heart is going, my ego's soaring. I just keep rolling along.
I want
So, yay! That is the last 5 years streaming on Kiosks until July 9th. So, hit us up at Jakarta Pack on Instagram to get your tickets. And until then, we'll see you very soon. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye bye.
One short day in the Emerald City.
Oh, I've always wanted to see the Emerald City.
One short day in the Emerald City. One short day in the Emerald City. One short day full of so much to do. Every way that you look at the city, there's something exquisite you'll want to visit before the day's through.
There are buildings tall as quads with trees, restaurants, libraries, houses, museums, 100 strong. There are wonders like I've never seen. It's all grand and it's all green. I think we found the place where we belong. I wanna be in this hoi polloi. So I'll be back for good someday to make my life and make my way. But for today, we'll wander and enjoy.
One short day in the Emerald City. One short day to have a lifetime of fun. One short day.
And we're warning the city. Now that we're in here, you'll know we've been here before we are done. Elfie, come on. We'll be late for Whistlemania.
Whose major itinerary is making all us merrier?